good people, and welcome to Lola Gets channel. And today I'm going to continue discussing my specific GLP-1 journey with a focus on my 7th month through my first year on Zepbound. So as I stated in the last video, I have actually been on Zepbound for almost 14 months now, and I'm currently on the 5 milligram dose. And I have been consistently on that dose since end of June 2024. So if you missed the last video, I talked about some of my insurance restrictions with the loading dose, the 2.5 dose or milligram dose, and having to navigate that, plus the shortage that was in or around April or May last year. But today I'm not going to focus on the 7th month through my first year. I am going to focus on that, but I also want to talk about my goals that I set for myself in the beginning and how they've evolved, and then the changes in my focus after I hit the 6-month mark and beyond. So before we get into all of that, before we dive in, I want to first thank you all who have joined me for another video and who have subscribed to this channel. If you're new here, welcome, dear hearts. And if you enjoy what you see, please remember to follow, like, and subscribe. This channel was created for us to be able to share encouraging stories and experience about life. So I'm glad you stopped in and tuned in. So, and as always, I'm forever humbled and grateful. Okay. All right, so let me start with my initial goals. And really I wanted to talk about that because I didn't mention that in the last video. So I wanted to talk about that here and just share that I did set some goals for myself. They weren't really, I had some thoughts in mind initially, I think, and they've kind of evolved over time. But really, initially I set mini milestones for myself. So each month I may have said, I want to lose like 4 pounds this week or this month, or be about this size by the time my birthday, or if it was a special holiday. Like 2 things I can remember from the first 6 months is like, I had a goal for what I wanted to do by my birthday, by the time I turned 39. And then also a size I wanted to get down to for my daughter's high school graduation. That was in June. So those were the 2, I guess, bigger goals, but they were still to me mini milestones because they weren't like my overall goal. And really the biggest goal that I had that I knew was going to take the most time was that I just wanted to be under 200 pounds. And then by the time, July rolls around, I did start to set some more specific goals, like just thinking about BMI. I thought about my age. I thought about conversations that I've had with my doctor and also my gynecologist. That was another thing. I talked to her too, just about, planning and, at what happens when you turn 40. Like she was like, my gynecologist was just kind of like, this is a good time to start losing weight, just because after I turn 40, your metabolism slows down. So it may be harder to lose weight then for me. So that was one thing that kind of stood out, which is what kept me going and kept me motivated, was that knowing that when I hit 40, that my metabolism could potentially slow down because of my age. So I did, initially I said I wanted to just be under 200 pounds. And then I thought about my size when I was in college, and I liked the size that I was then. And I'm like 5'4", maybe a little under 5'4". And I was 175 at my lowest when I was in college. So I was like, I would love to be around that size, like maybe 170 even. So I kind of started actually with being under 200 pounds. Then my next milestone was really to be at least 180. And then thought about, and like I said, this has evolved over time. And then I thought about like my main goal would be to be at 170. So my final goal right now, and it could change, like I may change that after I get to that size. But so those were really my goals, and they really got more defined the longer I stayed on Zepbound and started losing weight, and saw how I was consistently losing weight each month too. So we'll talk about that too. So some of the changes, though, kind of shifting over to that part of what stood out for me after I reached 6 months. So I lost 41 plus pounds my first 6 months on Zepbound. And like I said, And we'll talk about that. I was on the 2.5 and then the 5 milligram, and then went back to 2.5 and then went back to 5 milligrams. So that was a little bit back and forth. But basically, I lost 41 plus pounds my first 6 months. And then from July through December, I lost another 36 plus pounds. So my first year, I lost a total of like 78 plus pounds, which that was tremendous for me, right? Like I was so excited about that. Like it was working. I was putting in the work myself, like working out, not giving myself any excuses, tracking what I was eating, changing my habits. Lots of things changed with my habits and stuff like that. So, but what really, I guess what another thing that really changed for me too after that 6 month mark was my physical activity. I really was walking quite a bit. Like I mentioned in the last video, we have a trail by my house, and my husband and I started walking about 1.5 miles each day. We tried each day. It was close, but we did have some days where we didn't. Every day wasn't like that, but we definitely did a lot more walking and exercising in 24 than we did in 23. So I will just say that. And then I was still like tracking my activity in my Hit Meal app and on my Apple Watch. So I definitely track my steps on my Apple Watch. Sometimes I track my dose, like you can track your medication and stuff on here too. So I do some of that too. But again, my food habits were already adjusted in the first 6 months, as I mentioned, because we were fasting. So I think when July hit and we got into that 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th month, it really got more refined, I would say. And then because I got, like it became a habit, like the way that I was eating the smaller meals, eating more, stocking up on frozen vegetables, on frozen fruit, making smoothies, adding in protein, all of these things just got more refined. But what really increased was my activity. So I would say too, like, I was worried about how to get my medication that first 6 months. Like I said, I was doing just 1 box a month when I started, and I was just going to our local pharmacy at Walgreens. And then by the time I got to finding out about the 84-day supply I could do through my insurance, through my pharmacy provider, and then through Express Scripts, I was doing the 84-day supply. So that changed the game for me, really. It really was that I really wasn't so focused on how I was going to get my medication, because I got it 3 months at a time. And it was pretty seamless, to that whole process, logging in and getting on the website and ordering my prescriptions and all that. And I got notifications when it was getting ready to be delivered. So that was really, really easy. It made life easy for me to keep up with this stuff, because again, the shortage was happening. I had to navigate through my insurance restrictions with the doses that I could stay on for maintenance, the doses that I had to titrate up from, and that also dictated whether or not I was going to titrate up. So thank God I was consistently losing weight, and didn't really hit a weight stall my first year. Because I did think about titrating up to the 7.5. But I really, and I guess what made me think about it was the fact that there was like maybe 2 weeks in there where I wasn't really gaining much. I mean, I wasn't really losing much. So then I was like, well, maybe I need to titrate up. But then I realized that I am still consistently losing weight. So it didn't make sense to titrate up for me. Because I was consistently losing weight, like a pound and a half a week. So yeah, and then the other thing was like, well, I can't really titrate up because I don't think I need to get all the way up to a 10 milligram if I've been on the 5 milligram for these many weeks, these many months, and I'm still on the 5 milligram. I'm still consistently losing weight. And then just recently, actually, am now titrating up to 7.5. So I'll talk about that in our next set of videos about this. But right now, I am still on the 5 milligram. I will be for another week. And then I'm actually going to titrate up to the 7.5 because I actually have hit a little bit of a stall, like an official stall, which is the first time in my journey that I've hit one. So let me not get too much into that because I will talk about that separately. But like I said, I paid more attention to refining my foods and what I was eating. And then also focus more on my physical activity. That was a main focus when I got to the second half of my first year, and then really just focusing on just the routine, like my exercise routine, and then writing it down, kind of putting it and tracking it and all that good stuff. So I would say also what I was noticing at the time, like as far as changes, is in my body and also in my clothes. So this was when my family started really noticing my weight loss. They started asking me more questions about what are you doing? How are you losing all this weight? And then I started telling them about Zepbound and what it is, and how I talked to my doctor about it. And of course, my sister already knew about this because she was the one that introduced me to the GLP-1s. So I was just telling her about my process and how that all worked out with me getting the prior authorization and getting the scripts and all that kind of stuff and filling the prescription and injecting and all that. So I was just really just started just sharing it with my family because they were asking me because I was losing all this weight. And so I will throw some pictures up here too. So you'll see like my first 8 months, what that looked like. And then kind of at the end here, I'll show like what it looked like my first year. Because it is obviously losing 78 plus pounds, you do look different, I definitely noticed a lot more changes in the second half than in the first half. I mean, obviously I noticed in the first half too, because I lost 41 plus pounds, but definitely noticed more the second half of the 6 months of my first year. So, I did also notice for myself, I started to just feel more confident about my progress. I felt more confident about what I was doing, where I was usually probably discouraged at this point, just based on previous weight loss trials. Like I mentioned before, I did Weight Watchers. I tried Fentanyl, Adipex, and then also keto for a while. And just none of that was sustainable for me. And usually when I hit stalls during those times, kind of not so much on the Fentanyl, but that just wasn't, I got pregnant and then couldn't take that anymore. And then just was afraid to take it after I had my third child. So, but like with the other ones, like with keto, with Weight Watchers, it just really didn't work out for me that way. So I just would get discouraged, and then, working so hard and trying to lose weight. And then when you don't really see a lot of results, it kind of can be a little bit discouraging. So it was for me. So again, that was just me. But with this, I definitely feel more encouraged because I am consistently losing weight, and it's causing me to be consistent with my routine. So with what I eat in a day is more consistent, more thoughtful. And then also with my exercise routine is also more thoughtful. So, and just keeping up with that. So, and obviously I will say too, like I definitely talk a lot about my faith and my spirituality, and God definitely has helped me to stick with this routine. And then just, been praying about just that the medication is good, that it's not going to harm my body. Because if it's anything that we do, I always think that we should pray about it. Like, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So the things that he puts in motion for us to be able to use as tools, I definitely always want to pray about those and just make sure that I'm making the right decisions for me. And this has turned out to be a good decision for me. So I'm thankful that God put something like this in my path and in my direction, because it was something I wasn't even thinking about. I also was noticing too, like I said, my body, clothes, family was noticing. And then, like I said before, I was consistently losing weight, and that just kind of kept me encouraged. So the other change I wanted to talk about too was related to like my injections. And I noticed when I started back with the 5 milligram that I definitely well, first of all, I had stopped injecting in my stomach at this point, and I will explain why. But basically, from the beginning, I was rotating my shots between my stomach and my thighs only. I hadn't ventured to the back of my arm yet until like the end of April. And then when I started back with the 5 milligram into June, I tried the back of my arm again and, got sick and just like fatigued and all that good stuff. So the 5 milligram in the back of my arm kicked my butt. And then I ended up losing almost 7.5 pounds in the month of July. And this was like, I started back with the 5 milligram into June. So into June to July, I lost about 7.5 pounds during that month. So I still to this day have the most appetite suppression when I inject in the back of my arms, and actually in my thighs, but mostly in my arms is when I get the most. But both areas, I do get a good bit of appetite suppression with these, like even to this day. It's not like the one thing that changed to my first year is like the 5 milligrams is not making me so tired. Like I literally was like knocked out for like maybe day 2 of my shot, after my shot, and felt like I needed to lay down for like take a nap throughout the day or something, because it was definitely kicking my butt. And then and the reason like I stopped injecting in my stomach was really simply because I was getting more like just pain in my stomach. And I don't know if it was like gas pain or whatever it was too much for me to deal with. And I stopped injecting in my stomach because I just didn't like how it felt. But then I did start asking my husband to do the back of my arm, because that is also like one of the recommendations from Eli Lilly. I know I showed this the last time, that it recommends that another person should give you the injection in the back of your upper arm. And he definitely helped me do some of that as well. And I know sometimes he's not always like, sometimes if he works nights, then he may not be able to do my injection in the morning, because I'm a morning person. So sometimes I may do it myself, but for the most part, I follow that and have him help me. But some days just don't work out that way. And so like I said, yeah, I simply just stopped my stomach just because of the pain. It was just, cramps or whatever it was. I don't know what it was exactly, but I just stopped, and I've felt fine ever since. And yeah, so I focus on the back of my arms and my thighs, and I've been pretty consistent rotating between left and right in those two areas. So one thing I was going to share too, like I did in the last video, is how much weight I lost each month. And I did mention my weight progress on my Hit Meal app. So that's what I'm just going to share really quickly here. So you'll see in July of 24, I lost 7.4 pounds. In August, I lost 4.5 pounds. September, I lost 4.3 pounds. In October, I lost 7.6 pounds. I don't know what must have been working out a lot in October. I don't know what's going on. Back to the 7. In November, I lost 5.7 pounds, almost 6 pounds. And then December, I only lost 0.9 pounds. And I will say this about December. I gave myself a lot of grace in the month of December. It was the holidays. It was actually my first holiday on the GLP-1. And I knew that my family, we were going to have a lot of get-togethers. We were going to be cooking a lot of good food, eating a lot of good things. So I definitely got a little bit laxed in the month of December, but that was intentional. It wasn't like I was like, oh man, beating myself up. Like that was intentional. I was like, was working really hard at work, doing what I needed to do as far as like being consistent with my weight loss, my exercise routine, my food routine. And I used the month of December to relax and regroup and reset. And I did that. And and I'm so glad that I did, because then I hit January 25 and hit it right back with our fasting and all that kind of stuff like we normally do. I went right back into it. So I went right back into my routine. So I think that was important for me to make sure that I added in some time for grace for myself, and that helps me not to be discouraged about if I missed a day, or if I didn't hit my goal for the day of my walking, like how many steps I wanted to walk in a day. Like life happens, right? Just doing my day to day. And sometimes it's just the matter of, I just needed to give myself a little bit more grace. And I did that in the month of December, and I'm not sad about it. I'm actually happy that I did. So, yeah. And then, and just really quickly too, just summarizing my first year. Like I said, I lost a total of 78 plus pounds. I hit all my mini milestone goals, probably except for the month of December, because like I said, it was intentional. I took time to regroup and reset. But I still hadn't hit my first major goal of being under 200 pounds. So just to recap, I started at 292 before taking Zepbound. My weight at the time before my injection was 287.7 pounds. And then on my 1 year anniversary, so January 9th, 2025, my weight was actually 202.3. So you see, very, very close to getting to that under 200 pound mark, which was my first major goal. So that's pretty much my first year in a nutshell. So if there was anything that you all wanted to know more about or wanted me to talk about, kind of like what I ate in the day or what I still eat, I will talk more about that in our next set of videos like this, and just talk about where I am today, right? Because my goals have changed. Obviously, I'm in a new year. I've reached almost 14 months, and I have evolved again, right? So my goals have changed. I just talked about earlier that I've actually just decided to titrate up because of a weight stall that I've just experienced. So, all of those things, right? So I appreciate you all for coming and joining me for another video. But again, if you want to know more, drop those questions in the comment section, and just let me know, and about your journeys too. How are your journeys going? If you're on a similar program, like, are you using GLP-1s or just doing something different? But I'd love to hear about it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Stay tuned for more, because more is coming, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.